So good morning, good evening, good day to you. Welcome to what is BIM 20-minute approximately webinar. We're going to go through the what, the why, and the how on this extremely exciting and engaging topic of what BIM is. So a big hello to you. My name is Matthew Jackson, talking to you from Sweden on this very warm and stuffy summer's day here in Sweden. Yes, we do have hot weather here too. Fire out Q&A as we go along. I'll try and pick up some questions as we go between the chapters. If not, I'll keep the questions to the end. And if I don't get through to them all, I'll be sure to get back to you as soon as I can. We've got lots of people online and vote for your favorite questions that come in. So today's agenda is we're going to talk about what BIM is. We're going to talk about the evolution, how we kind of got here, why we're doing this as an industry, what the trends are, so you can kind of see where the industry is going and really how BIM works for you. So let's start at the beginning. BIM, what is it? I say start at the beginning. Let's start at the end. This is an example of a rendered BIM model. This is also an example of a BIM model. It is being created inside the computer, and it is an example of a building that has been completely digitally constructed. And you can see all the pieces that make it up. I think this looks like to be a model of a hotel. You can see the beds and the chairs and the air conditioning and everything. This is BIM. It's how buildings are designed today and how they're going to be designed more in the future. The advantages are this is a BIM model. And this is a BIM model where they're working out if things hit each other. This is a BIM model. This is an example of using all the information inside the model that shows us all the different functions, locations, finishing types inside a model as well. Thank you to 3D Repo for making this. So this is a BIM model. This is a BIM model. This is construction sequencing and staging, so we understand how building sites will work. And this is for a stadium design. So all of these are what BIM is. This is the end point of the work that we will do as an industry. But let's talk about what it really means. BIM is an acronym. It means building information modeling. It also means building information management, better information modeling, better information management. There are lots of others. The common element here is information. And that is a key area which we're going to be discussing for the next 15-20 minutes. So what is BIM? BIM is a methodology. It is about policies, processes, collaborations, and technologies. It's about the management. It's about managing digital information through the design, construction, and through the entire life cycle of the building. That's basically what BIM is. What BIM is not a software. BIM is not 3D computer-aided design. It's not an all-in-one solution. There are hundreds of different approaches, methodologies, techniques, and softwares that need to be used. And it's not just for designers. It may start with designers. In fact, actually, probably starts with the people who are going to own the building in the future. It's for everybody. So that's the basics of what is BIM. So evolution. How did we get here? How did we get to this point? Well, I'm an architect. I'm architecturally trained. I've been working in now construction technology for a long time. And when I went to school, we were still using pencils, pens, and of course, very old-fashioned tools. And this is how we communicate as designers. And we've been doing this for thousands and thousands of years. The pyramids were designed in this way, all the way up to very recent times. And many designers are still communicating in this way today. We communicate through lines, arcs, and circles. We communicate in 2D traditionally. But 2D creates an element of problems. Is that not everybody can understand what 2D really means. And I'm sure you've seen many blogs online where it's hilarious where all these mistakes happen within the building industry. But these are extremely wasteful, and it might be funny to look at, and it may be silly when you think about it. But these are mistakes that you see, and we're not even talking about mistakes that we don't see. So there was a problem with communicating in just 2D. So we've come to an evolution in the way in which we design. That is, we're moving from a 2D computer-aided design to 3D computer-aided design to enhanced 3D computer-aided design, which is building information modeling methodologies. And I've already shown you what some of those methodologies can create. And there's a really real reason for this, and that is that yesterday, we have all these stakeholders that are involved in building buildings and looking after buildings in the future. Basically 8 big groups. There are many more. In fact, I could fill this entire page with faces. And traditionally, we would communicate in a very archaic way, where we'd be communicating things and not really working together. The entire point and the entire evolution of BIM is so we can work together in a collaborative, centralized way. And that is through either things like shared models, but most importantly, shared information. And that is sharing information through a BIM process to basically make better decisions. A really good example of this would be the new Brandenburg airport in Berlin. Well, actually, it's a bad example because for those of you who don't know, this airport took 30 years from design to completion. It was 9 years late, and it was billions of euros overpriced, over budget, and extremely wasteful. This was designed and used using traditional methodologies, and it's no secret, and there's many reports that have been written that if they used new BIM methodologies with collaboration across the different sectors, it is very possible that the mistakes which caused this airport to be late would not have happened. So it's a great example of where things go wrong in the industry, and this is one of, I'm sure, hundreds of projects within your own countries that go wrong all the time. So why now? Why this big shift in the way that we are doing things within the industry? Well, I'm going to name it 3 areas. The first one being productivity, the second being technology, and the third being sustainability. So let's start with productivity. So here's some beautiful high school graphs. This is very much thanks to The Economist and McKinsey. And we are talking about productivity. Construction today is no more productive than what it was after the end of the Second World War, 1947. We have not improved our efficiency at all. Take that compared to agriculture, which is farming, which is improved by 1600 gross value added, so 600%. Manufacturing is at 800%, and the overall global average is apparently just under 300% increase of gross added value in the United States. So it's really quite bad that construction has not really gained any productivity or efficiency gains at all. And here is another really good example of this. So this is another report by McKinsey. This screenshot, I think, is from 15, a report they did where they looked at the digital productivity and digital work of different sectors. And you can see here that construction is the second lowest, only to be beaten or be worse by farming and hunting. So construction is extremely analog, non-digital, non-productive improving, non-efficient improving industry. And this is, of course, a massive, massive problem today. And this means that, generally speaking, the built environment is very low profit margins. For those of you that don't know, major construction companies run at single-digit profit margins. Sometimes even not even single digits, like 0.5% to 1% profit margins. The productivity is low, and as discussed earlier with the Brandenburg airport, the cost of failure is relatively high. This is a huge, huge issue. So moving then to technology. Change is coming. For those of you who don't know, or those who think, we're currently going through the fourth industrial revolution. Here's just a little reminder of all the industrial revolutions that we've gone through. And we're going through the digital revolution today. Go and read about it. It's actually a really interesting topic. I find it quite fascinating reading about the old industrial revolutions as well, to think how far we've come along. So let's quickly talk about it. So let's talk about what this means. So digitization, and I'm, as you can see behind me, I'm a big fan of books. I'm actually not a fan of digital books. I'm still very analog, but books are a really good example to use. It's one of the big markets that went digital very, very quickly. So what happened? We took physical things and made them digital. We enabled the user, the end user, the consumer to very quickly go online and get a book and read a book online without having to physically find it, buy it, get it delivered. So we went from analog to digital very, very quickly. And this is what we call the digitization process, taking something which is a traditionally analog delivery and making it digital. But that's all very well and good. We've now got loads of digital files. The next thing that we need to do is digitalization. Digitalization is accessing these digital things through a technology to carry out a task or a transaction. So if you look at where Amazon really started with the Kindle, this is a great example where they not only went out to publishers and got them to digitize their books, they enabled us as a consumer, as a user, to access those digital books through a Kindle, but also through the Amazon system. It was extremely successful because it was so easy to do. I have right now, I could go onto Amazon and I have, I think, probably millions of books at my fingertips that I can access with just a couple of clicks, which is amazing. When you think about it, previously I would have to go to a library or I'd have to wait a long time to get a book to be delivered. So this is really quite fascinating. So this is what digitalization is. It is taking those digital things and making them available on a network. And the third thing, which is actually, I think, the most important thing, is digital transformation. This is about us. This is about people. This is the effect on the business process. And if you think about books and you think about digitalization and digitization, fundamentally changed the business processes and the way in which you earn money, but also the cultural adjustment of me as a user absorbing that content. And that can be said common across all these different platforms. You don't go to every single hotel's website to inquire about pricing. You go to booking.com or hotels.com. You do, whether you like it or not, you do buy a lot of your stuff through alibaba.com or Amazon. If you are a consumer of fashion, then a lot of people are buying things through Zalando and ASOS. If it's music, it's Spotify, Apple Music. If it's films, then it's Netflix, Amazon Prime, HBO. And if it's search, it's basically just Google. These are all platforms which have taken something traditionally analog, and not only have they digitized them and digitalized them, they have brought them together and basically digitally transformed that industry and created a huge cultural adjustment, and also importantly lowered the barriers of entry for businesses to become part of this digital revolution, because these companies are basically building the platform and maintaining that platform on your behalf, and that makes extremely successful businesses. BIM Object, here we're doing something very, very similar by taking the world's products which go into buildings and creating a platform where users, consumers can access that and bring those into their design. We're doing something very, very, very similar to those platforms, and we're doing it on a global scale. It's extremely exciting. Let's talk about part 3, which is sustainability, the third reason why we're here. And one thing that you have to understand is that the construction industry and the built environment is extremely inefficient, as I've said. 98% of all projects are late and cost more than they are planned to cost. By mega projects, we mean the airport, the hospital, the school, those big projects which are really important to society, and, can I point out, are paid for by tax money most of the time. They are overcost by about 80%. Again, this is taxpayers' money. They are on average 20 months late. This is extremely bad when you think about if it's a hospital or a school. This has direct impact on people's lives. And the largest part of the sustainability area, not just social sustainability, but the globe, is that construction actually and the built environment deliver a huge amount of waste. to the world, 40% of solid waste comes from us and 35% of CO2 output comes from us. Now, taking to that as a comparison, 13% comes from aviation. So we are nearly 3 times more CO2 output comes from the built environment than aviation. And yet aviation is what you read about in the newspapers all the time. There was a study done on this in the UK. This is from Innovate UK, is that generally speaking, buildings output 3.8 times more CO2 than they were designed to achieve. So something is going wrong here, and this is why the digital revolution in construction is happening now. This is why BIM is happening now, is that we are not controlling what we do from an output perspective, and all the reasons that I've just mentioned. So what is the trend? What is the trend that's coming in? Oh, I can see that there's some questions coming in here. So I will wait for those because they're good for the very, very end. So trends, the emergence of this technical revolution. So one thing which is clear, governments for projects like enough is enough. We need to think about the future of the way in which we design, think about the way in the future that we build buildings, and think about the way that we manage those buildings in the future. So a lot of the countries are deploying what we call governmental BIM requirements or mandates, which is basically a set of rules in which they want to have more information coming into the projects and more information being handed over to the building owner at the end. That's basically what these means. It just means that they are having information requirements in the future. And this has created a huge influx into adoption of this new technology and these new methodologies and these new managements of information. It is a hugely growing area, and it's only going to increase as time moves forward. And it's basically creating a de facto standard. They see this is from 2019. We see that it is only going to be the de facto standard in the future because it's so obvious. The benefits and values are so obviously there for the use to be done. So how is this happening? How, I suppose, can we take advantage of this opportunity which is being presented? So if you think about the industry, there's 3 big pillars of the industry. We've got buildings, we've got infrastructure, we've got industrial. So buildings is vertical construction, anything that comes out of the ground. Infrastructure is horizontal, anything that goes along the ground, like roads and rails and tunnels. And industrial being, mining, oil, gas, power, the really, really heavy stuff. But regardless of these, they all have kind of common groups of people, and they have common assets and requirements across all of them. And that is they have a common group of people that are going to be involved in the stages of building. We have architecture and engineering and construction operations and owners. And today, all these people are extremely important. And there are so many roles. I mean, I haven't even been able to list them all because there's just so many. But one of the things that's kind of always been missing is where does the supply chain come in? The supply chain being the manufacturers, being the people that make the stuff that we build our buildings out of. Generally speaking, they get involved in the construction and operation phase. And this is one of the reasons a lot of problems are kind of happening along the way. So how? Well, this is a really good example. This is a very old graph. So along the bottom axis there, we have the different design phases. So we've got concept design, detailed design, construction documentation, how we're going to build it. Then we're going to build the building, and then we're going to operate it. And we've got effort and cost and effect on a low to high on the y-axis. So the cost of design changes throughout a project increase as you get later and later and later into a project. And that is for a number of reasons, mainly because the more detailed you get, when you need to make changes, the harder it is to make those changes. And when you get on site, it's even more expensive to make changes, especially if things are already being built. And when things are running, to make fundamental changes to a building once something has been built can be extremely costly. So, the cost and the effort gets a lot higher over time, and that's obvious, right? So the ability to impact design cost and performance, so the cost and the performance of a building at the beginning is extremely high, with low cost. So, it's a very low cost to make design changes, but has huge amounts of impact. And of course, that changes over time. So if you want to fundamentally change a design during construction, this is has really low effect and is really expensive, and it's really hard to do. So if you take the traditional design process, the traditional 2D workflow, the before BIM world, a lot of the work, a lot of the effort goes into the center part there, goes into the construction documentation. And what BIM beautifully does, and then a lot of the product decisions are made here. So a lot of the product decisions are made there. And of course, now we're at a point where if you want to make any changes, it starts to become very expensive to make those changes. And what BIM quite beautifully does is that it shifts a lot of the work into the design phase. And we want to be making product decisions, specification, performance decisions here, because we're still in design and we can still make all those beautiful decisions. And therefore, the effort is relatively low, but the cost is low and the effect is really, really high. This is one of the major fundamental things that is changing in the industry. And you can see that because at the very beginning of this talk, we saw buildings being built digitally in a building. And this is our circle of life, right? This is our construction circle of life. We want to go through all of these phases. All these phases are really, really, really important. And having information about products and having information about the performance of a building earlier means that we can do really, really good analysis on a building. We can understand energy consumption. We can understand how a building is going to operate in the real world for a long time. We can document that. We can then either go around to understand how it could be fabricated in a factory. We can understand the 4D and 5D areas of construction. So 4D is how do you build something over time? I showed you a little video at the beginning of the stadium in construction phases. And 5D is cost over time. And importantly, we can understand the operations and maintenance of a building better because we know what's in our building. We know how it's operating and working, and we have a model. And importantly, we have all the information that is needed. So BIM, B is in bananas. So here is a really good way to explain how BIM works in the real world. If you want bananas in your design, if you just had old school CAD bananas, 2D pencil, you just see what they look like. But the idea with BIM bananas, if you use the BIM workflow, not only can you see what they look like, because they have information around them, we understand how the bananas weigh, we understand their origin. In this case, we understand how many calories they have, how much sugar content they have. We have the expiry date, and we can see it through the different phases. So if we take that to bricks, a real brick, we know what a real brick looks like. In 2D, we know how to draw a brick. But in BIM, we not only can see what they look like, we understand how heavy a brick is. We understand where the origin is. We understand what it's made up of. We could understand the CO2 content of this brick, and we could understand the life expectancy of this brick. Fundamentally, it's about what the information does for us. And then finally, building. This is Hudson Docks, New York, an extremely complex site. And this is an image of what the building was going to look like at the end. You have a 2D drawing in the middle. We understand the layout. But then by using BIM methodology, we actually now have a really good understanding there on the right-hand side of the screen. I not only understand what it looks like, I can see all the spaces stacked on top of each other. I understand all the products that are involved in this design. I understand the energy use. I can simulate the site to understand how it would work. and I can basically see into the future over time to understand how the maintenance will work. So this is fundamentally a huge shift, and it's so much more valuable, and we can get so much more out of it and make so much better decisions. So BIM is taking the industry from analog to digital. This is construction's digital transformation. Manufacturing did this back in the 80s, especially with car design and processes. And a lot of industries have already done this. And this is construction's time to change. And how is BIM Object doing this? Well, basically, we are bringing the digital building blocks from manufacturers to the industry. And this is just a screenshot of our site. And we're working with 2,000 brands. We're working with 100 of the 100 architectural firms. We are the #1 source, and we have 25 million products downloaded from our site every year. And our goal is to be the global marketplace for the construction industry. That's what BIM Object is doing. BIM Object is becoming that platform, of where products come to the industry. And this is an example of some of the global companies that we work with right now today. So architects don't go to all these individual sites to download content. They come to BIM Object in exactly the same way that you would go to booking.com for all your hotels, and you would go to Spotify for all your music. Architects are coming here for a common place to get all of their content. And it makes perfect sense because it's what they do in their own lives. So if you want to find out more, go and check out business.bimobject.com. And I see that I have some questions, which I'm now going to go through very quickly. I really hope you've enjoyed today's session. If you're going to quickly drop off, but I encourage you, there's some good questions to stay. So one of the questions, or the one of the top questions that's come in, are BIM projects charged at higher prices to traditional ones? How is the industry handling this? It's a really good question. I don't think so. I mean, I think it's about what the value that the clients get out of it at the end of the day. I mean, I think, and this is my personal opinion, there is definite opportunity. The person's an architect. Okay, that's interesting. There's definitely an opportunity to offer more value. I mean, if you think about this, right, you're offering more value to the clients, to the building owners. So there is value there. Whether that turns out to be cost or fees, I can't specifically comment on that, but there's definitely more value. The flip side of that, we've been doing this a long time ago? Yeah, probably. But anyway, so that's that one. Let me just tick that. Okay, great. So let's have a look. Sorry. Do you charge? No, we don't charge architects at all. So designers can come use BIM Object for free. They have complete free access to all of the content that we host. There's no fees for architects at all. So come and open an account now. It's quite fantastic. Question from a manufacturer: are you aware of what softwares people use? Yes, we are. We try and provide as many softwares as we can. There are outliers. A lot of people are using Revit and ArchiCAD. A lot of people were also using, though, SketchUp, Vectorworks, Allplan. I mean, there are many softwares, and that's just modeling softwares. We haven't even got into data programs yet. So on that list, so there are a lot. The important thing here is just making sure that your information is available. I mean, I think that's the most important thing, right? I mean, and then people can choose what they do, and if they want things in different file format, they usually let us know quite quickly. So that's pretty good. This is from a manufacturer. Are your products, do we only display our products on BIM Object, or do you share them to other sites? So we share them to other sites. In fact, we can share them back to your own site. So we do that through synchronization, really smart. As we say, kind of, it's best to get as much content out there as humanly possible. What is the best way to prepare and upload for the future? Well, check out business.bimobject.com. There's some really good guides and blogs in there. I mean, I think that's an entire session in itself, but have a look and reach out to us. We can answer that for you. But there's some great guides written by the team on the site. And finally, another manufacturer asks, if we make our products available in this technology, can we find out who uses them? Oh, yes, absolutely. The great thing about, again, using digital platforms is that we have analytics and insights and understanding how things are used. We have trend analysis. We have all sorts of tools which are available to you, so you understand which countries are really popular for you, what products are really popular in certain regions, even down to which architectural practices and which people are accessing your content. So we have a lot of information which you can use to help your sales and marketing processes. And that's the digital transformation part, right? So, the digitization is providing products in a digital way. Digitalization is putting them on a platform, which is BIM Object. Digital transformation is us providing you with data which fundamentally changes your business processes. Or not changes, maybe moves things along. So absolutely, 100% there. So thank you very much for those questions. And that is it. I will not take up any more of your time on this summer's day. I hope that you have a really good rest of the day, or maybe it's the end of the day, so a nice evening where you are, wherever in the world. My name is Matthew Jackson, and just a big thank you on behalf of myself and everybody at BIM Object for joining us today. So thank you very much.